With the second pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Chase Young, defensive end, Ohio State.
But you know, as they say, hail to the Redskins. Let's roll, man. Let's go.
Someone sent me a message on the YouTube video yesterday and said, look, whatever happened to the spirit of competition? Like, when are you ever okay with going into a season knowing that you're going to lose football games? And look, the answer to that is you're never content with losing football games. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying the Redskins should just pack in and fold up the 2020 NFL season because I don't think they're going to be very good. I told you every single week I sit in front of my television at 1 o'clock thinking that the Redskins are going to somehow find a way to win the game no matter who the opponent is. No matter how daunting the task may be, I think we can win. Now, again, that may be me just being a fanatic, okay? Short for fan, short for fanatic. And honestly, probably a little crazy. And I know better, but that's just how I'm wired. I think we can win. However, I'm a realist as well. And I know that the Redskins aren't going to go 10-6 more likely than not. It's not out of the realm of possibility. As I've mentioned, the things that we need to go right bounce our way and we stay relatively healthy. And the defense is what we think it could be. It's vastly improved and everything kind of hits and we hit that inside straight. Who knows, but more likely than not, that's not what's going to happen this season. And I want to see this thing, and that's been a problem. And he said, well, what about going out and getting veterans to push these young guys and, having these veterans come in here and give us a chance to win? Well, that's the old model. That's the model that's failed here time after time after time after time. Aren't you tired of bringing in the Paul Richardsons of the world only to rob us of $40 million? Aren't you tired of bringing in those guys that don't pan out here? We did that under Bruce Allen every year, where we would go out, sign a bunch of low to middle costing veterans that would come in here and stink it up, that wouldn't produce much, and we'd lose football games in the process. Never lose enough. Okay, never lose enough to get you that high draft pick like we got last year, which nets you really good football players, but lose just enough to put you right in the middle of the draft at 7-9, 8-8, or 7-8-1, and it's just not good enough. So let's try a different approach. Let's now let the young boys play. Let the young fellas get their feet wet because there's no replacing experience, okay? We could talk about mental reps. We could talk about Zoom conferences. We could talk about being able to see it, watch a bunch of film. There's no substituting. There's no replacing actual experience. Reps in the game when the bullets are live, when these things actually count. You can make mistakes in practice. That's what practice is for. But when it comes game time, we want to know who are the guys that are going to play mistake-free football. We want to know who are the guys that are going to give us the best chance to win. And if these guys can't get it done, then we need to find guys that can. But how are you going to find that out if you don't let them play? Okay? Just imagine last season if Terry McLaurin was buried on the bench because we had a bunch of veterans. We would have never found out that Terry McLaurin was the real deal and that we may have a true number one wide receiver on our team. If we would have decided that, hey, got to get these veterans out there and let them play, and all of a sudden Terry McLaurin's on the bench. That's why you got to let the youngins play. You got to find out what you have. I get it. No one likes losing, but let's be honest with ourselves. With the way the deck is stacked against us, it's probably not going to be the best outcome for us, in 2020. And that's okay. And but what we will find out is who's going to ride with us in the future. What guys we can ask to get inside the car and let's ride. And we're going to take this thing to the next level, starting with 2021. That's the way I view it. And so I appreciate the comment on the YouTube video, but I don't agree with that approach with the team that we have now. And I think the way that it's set up with all the youth that we have on this current roster, I think you have to take an opportunity to see what these guys can bring to the table. And the best way to figure it out at most positions is to just throw them into the fire and find out what you have. Let them play. Yeah, mistakes are going to be made, all right? But you're going to find out what you truly have before it's all said and done. Thank you for the super chat, Rob U. Chris Zacharias, doubling up. Double up. Thank you for the super chat. Chris Z, thank you for doubling up. My man Chris Z writes, School of Hard Knocks. Let the young guys play. Absolutely. All right. Baptism by fire. You don't know what you've got until you let them hit the field. You got to see what these guys can produce for you. All right. And if the moment's too big for them, maybe they're not the right guy. Because generally in this league, and like I said, there's exceptions to every rule, and every guy can't be measured on the same scale. Because some guys get it immediately, other guys don't. But you know what? If a guy comes in and shows you right away, then you know what you got. And if a guy doesn't, that doesn't mean you get rid of him. That just means maybe he isn't ready to play right now. And that's okay too, you know? But I just want to know. Let me know something. And the only way you find that out is if you let these guys play. I'm with you. Got another super chat. This one from Barrett Downey, my man BD. Thank you for the super chat, BD. Greatly appreciate you, BD, as always, who writes, I'm with you, Lou. I really don't want to deal with a bunch of vets. I just want the kids to play so they can improve instead of parked on the beach. HTTR. Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we've went that route before with the veterans, and we haven't gotten it done. And so what we're doing now is we've got a youth movement in Washington, and the only way to find out, to see if the youth can actually play, is to let them play. And we're going to find out. I told you, there's nothing, and I'll kind of make this comparison. I'm a Memphis Grizzlies fan in the NBA. And you know what was so fun and refreshing about this past season, even though we didn't get the completion of the season, maybe, you know, with the NBA agreeing to start back at the end of July, we may get a conclusion to the season. I'm not happy about how things turned out with that, but it doesn't matter. You know what was so refreshing about watching my Grizzlies this year is that we were so young. We called it the next gen Grizz, okay? Next generation Grizz, because they were so young. Well, a bunch of young 20-somethings running around on the court. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They're just out having fun, man. And it was refreshing because I was watching the young boys play. And I had the last two coaches that the Grizzlies had, or three really, that we had before the one we have now. They refused to let the young boys play. We would draft a guy in the first round and he wouldn't see the light of day. He'd be parked on the bench behind a bunch of veterans. And that was cool. But at the same time, how do we know what that guy can do if you're not giving him any minutes? How are we supposed to know if this guy can play at an NBA level if you're not giving him any clock? And so now I'm watching these Grizzlies grow before my eyes because they're playing. For better or for worse, they're in the game, and you know, sometimes it would be maddening. There'd be a bunch of turnovers and a bunch of mistakes, and they get bogged down, and because they want to get out and run, and they want to have fun, and sometimes they make a bunch of mistakes in that process, and you pull your hair out like, dude, you can't do that. That's how you lose ball games. But guess what? They learned from those mistakes. And down the season, further as we got into the season, you started to see them learn from those mistakes and started to make the right plays in critical situations. And instead of losing a game by 4, we would win a game by 3. And you say, you know what? This team is coming of age. Why? Because they let the young boys play. Let them play. And so, look, it may not prove to be the best thing for wins and losses in 2020. I understand that there's a sacrifice that comes when you play the young boys. And it's okay. You know why? Because I know that the fruit that we bear at the end of this thing is going to be worth it. When I take a bite out of that fruit that's going to be really juicy, juice dripping down my cheek, you know what I'm going to say? Man, it was well worth the wait. All right. It was well worth the wait to be able to watch them play and have to suffer through some tough, excruciating losses that maybe if you had a veteran-laden team, maybe you pull it out. You know, maybe you don't. But because we watched the young boys play and watched them come of age right before our very eyes, we watched them make the mistakes. We watched them learn and grow. Now they're ready to take that next step. The mistakes that they were making as young pups, wet behind the ears, breath smelling like Similac. They're no longer making those mistakes. And so because of that, I'm excited to see the young boys play. Let them play. Let them play. And then once we find out what we have, because not all of these young boys are going to prove to be ready to go for the show. All right. Sometimes the spotlight and the stage is a little bit too big and a little bit too bright for some of these young boys. And that's okay. Like I said, some of these guys are going to sink and some of them are going to swim. Just because they sink doesn't mean they don't know how to swim. Just means that they may have a 5-pound anvil attached to their ankle at the time. And maybe it takes them a little time to unfree themselves from that shackle, and then they come back up to the surface. It may take them a little bit of time, but we're on a journey and we're on a path, and you need the guys that are ready to go right now. And so you find out who those guys are, because I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to have the same tone that I have right now going into the 2021 season. I'm not going to be telling you guys, hey, I'm okay with 6 or 7 wins. After seeing the team this year, for better or for worse, especially if Dwayne plays well, forget about the record. If Dwayne plays well and I feel good about some of the talent around him on both sides of the football, I'm talking crazy next year. I'm talking 10, 11 wins. All right. And the only way you get to talk crazy and reckless like that is if you know what you have. The only way you know what you have is if you let the young boys play. You find out what you got, so I can say, all right, look, we don't have this, this, and this. This is why we need to add that in free agency. And that's when you start to learn your roster and what you have and what you don't have. I've told you guys this numerous times. I'll continue to beat this into your skull until you're regurgitating this. You build your team through the draft, okay? That's where you build the foundation and core of your football team. It's through the draft. You supplement your roster, meaning you add to pieces, you add to parts of your roster that are lacking through free agency, okay? So what you find out by playing the young boys is what you need to add in free agency, all right? Whoa, we don't have this right here. We don't have that, all right? We might be able to get one in the draft, but if we're trying to win now, we need a guy that we can count on, a guy that's done it in the league. So you go get one of those, maybe 2 of those in free agency, and you keep it pushing. So that's why you got to let the young boys play. Got to let them play.
Louie T.